Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Brandwatch webinar, Creating a Social Enterprise, Segmentation's Critical Role in Uncovering Social Insights. I am joined today by our host, Amy Barker, who's Head of Analytics here at Brandwatch, and Lizz Martinez, Senior Analyst at Dell Digital Business Services. Before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, don't be shy. We love all participation. So you can follow along on Twitter, following the hashtag BrandWatchTips. You can also ask questions on Twitter, and as long as you use the hashtag, we'll make sure to hit on them in the Q&A session at the end. You can also ask questions in the GoToWebinar chat box. We will make sure to answer those as well during the short Q&A session. And just one more thing, the slides and the webinar recording will also be available in 1 to 2 business days, and we'll make sure to email those out to all people who have registered for this webinar. And now I'm going to hand it over to Amy Barker.
Hi everyone, this is Amy. I'm the Head of Analytics on the Professional Services team at Brandwatch. Just a few things about me and my team. First of all, my team is cool, as noted. The thing that I like most about my team is that we have a very diverse set of backgrounds. So my background is in computer science and mathematics. We have some people on the team who have backgrounds in linguistics. Some people have backgrounds in marketing. So it's really a well-rounded group of people, and we are here to help you get the most out of Brandwatch. There's 2 main ways in which our team works to help you get the most out of Brandwatch. The first is that we do initial setups. So most times when an account is sold in, initial setup is also sold in, which means that when you log into the app for the first time, you'll see your data already pre-populated there, and we've kind of built out your use cases for you before you even get started. The second thing that we do is expert hours. Expert hours are an ongoing monthly subscription of at least 3 hours a month. And these are basically, you're buying our time to do with whatever you want. So you can use it for things like if you have a campaign that's going on for a few months and you want to set up a new query around that, or if you have a new line of business that you want to add into your account, or even if you have your own expert users in-house and you want to get them some specialized training on advanced Boolean, very exciting things like that. Something good to note about expert hours is that you can also use it for the user adoption team and the research services team. So just a little plug there to say that you should get some expert hours. So that's who I am, and now I'm going to talk briefly about what's coming up in today's webinar. The first thing is that I'm going to do a very short and sweet overview of Brandwatch. The second is I'm going to hand it over to Liz, and she's going to talk about Dell's point of view and how segmentation has played a critical role in uncovering insights for them. And then finally, I'm going to go over a high-level review of how you would implement something like that within Brandwatch. And at the end, we'll have a brief Q&A session. I'm going to hand it over to Liz. Oh, sorry. I'm going to talk about Brandwatch now. So Brandwatch is a leading social media listening platform. We have over 1,200 clients in over 20 markets internationally. We have offices in New York, where I'm based, San Francisco, Brighton, where our headquarters are, Berlin, Stuttgart, and Singapore. And as that might suggest, we support a lot of languages, so over 44 languages. And we have a 97% customer satisfaction rate. So now I'm going to hand it over to Liz.
Thank you. Well, just to get started here, as was so pointed out, I am part of Dell Digital Business Services, and for those of you who don't know, there is a whole other umbrella besides selling computers and laptops and gameware and all of that at Dell. We are part of a bigger whole here. I am under the social media business delivery segment, and today I will be talking about how segmentation can really help bring across your social data and your social strategy. So to get started, a little bit about me. I am a native Chicagoan, but I've recently, and by that I mean in the last 9 months, escaped the harsh winters and now live in Austin, Texas. I am a huge baseball fan. As you can see by my little pug here, he has a Cubs jersey on, and I love all things spicy, so it's a good thing I moved to Texas, right? So next we'll talk about Dell Digital Business Services. Just to give you a brief history of how we came to be, and I won't bore you with this entire timeline, although our history at Dell is pretty rich when it comes to social media. But in 2006, our CEO, Michael Dell, asks, why aren't we reaching out to bloggers when it comes to feedback on our products? And that kind of launched and propelled us into having a really sound presence in social media. And as a result of that, in 2010, we launched SmackU, which is our social media and community university. We do social media at a large scale, and we take our employees' opinions pretty seriously when it comes to feedback given and feedback found. And one way to make sure that all this is streamlined is through our SmackU courses, which teach our employees how to brand themselves as well as how to brand themselves as Dell employees. And as a result of that, in 2012, we launched the Subject Matter Experts program. And so what that means, it's basically people at Dell are pretty passionate about things, whether they're within Dell or whether they be, the software side or the hardware side, but we want to really make our employees shine. And with that comes our our subject matter experts who really kind of champion what Dell is all about. And because of all of these successes, a lot of Dell's clients came and said, well, how do you do that for us? How do you do social media for us? And that's where Dell Services was born in 2012. And so how can we help, really? Dell Services offers social listening and insights. And what that means is we can help analyze customer conversations in social media to drive those actionable insights, predict business outcomes by leveraging social data, visualize social insights for quick decision making, integrate social and internal business processes, enable personalized engagement with our customers, and ensure that social media efforts are producing those desired results. And as a result, we've been able to help our customers with product development, talent acquisition, sales, increase satisfaction with customer service, as well as marketing and communication. So definitely focused on content creations. So how does that even factor into the bigger whole, right? So many of you already know that social media is usually one component of a bigger entity. The same can be said about our social media delivery offering. So as you see, we're part of the social engagement umbrella under digital marketing as well as CRM. And that plays into, basically, we initiate the digital transformation using that social data that feeds into all of these kind of digital application development, mobility and UX, advanced analytics and omnicommerce, and BI and information management. So that's a little bit more about the Dell Digital Business Services. And leading into the presentation, speaking briefly about Dell's partnership with Brandwatch. Our partnership runs about 3 years long. We've been using Brandwatch primarily for social listening and recently have adapted the Vizia platform. If any of you all are ever in the great state of Texas and want to drive over to Plano, we just recently launched a digital experience center, which we highlight both Brandwatch and Vizia as part of our digital experience center and listening and command centers. So that's kind of the lead up to what we'll be talking about today. And as many of you know, if you're all listening, we are kind of all on the same boat of how we take our approaches to social listening and social media and market research as a whole. But each of our engagements are rooted in the set key of business questions, assumptions of target outcomes that will drive each program. And because business problems are different across industry verticals and use cases, our engagements are highly customized. And again, I'm sure you're all familiar with this. I think social media is very unique in that the data is so fresh, but can always be a little bit late once you get to it, right? So what's the takeaway there is that insights that are truly actionable are seldom, if ever, found at the surface. So turning that social data into intelligence is the result of the well thought out intentional segmentation, which we'll be talking about today. So getting into data segmentation, we wanted to highlight an example that's both relevant to Dell, but maybe to some of you listening today. We'll start with the business question. What are some of the key factors that drive laptop purchases for college students when price is the main consideration point? So first, we want to know what's actionable, right? So when we look at insights in general, we want to know that they have the ability to initiate a change, they can improve a process, expose a unique or competitive position, are relevant across the business, and not necessarily a vanity metric or top-level KPI. We've all seen those kind of metrics before where they're a great starting point, but they're not where we want to end up. So in this case, we're going to do kind of 4 levels of segmentation and 4 levels of research that are going to help us answer that question. So if you think back to that question, and I want you all to think about that now, and think of, let's have a guess at what's the key factors that drive laptop purchases for college students when price is the main consideration point. Think back to the time when you were in school and maybe you had to buy your own laptop, maybe your parents were paying for it, but what were you thinking about most? So these 4 levels will help us get to where we're going with that. And the first is going to be that end value, and that is the brand that you're looking at. That's kind of our first starting point of segmentation. It's that share of voice. How many people are talking about Dell versus HP versus Macs, etc. And then the second level is who is the audience that we want to look at? Is it college students? Is it IT decision makers, millennials, or retirees? And that third level is that purchase path. So in what stage are these people that are talking about buying a laptop in? Are they already at the purchasing decision? Are they looking for recommendations, or are they switching from their previous, or are they just, thinking about it? And the fourth level is going to be the purchase drivers. What's definitely helping make these decisions? And so, as Obi-Wan Kenobi tells us here, the first level, your end value, that's the starting point in this case, but these are not the insights you're looking for. We're looking at specific brands, but why do we do this? A Dell user can be very different from an Apple user, for instance, but it's also a good starting point as you're segmenting because Dell users might have different priorities. For instance, what programs are you going to be running? And then the second level here, as Milo and Otis can tell us, we're on our starting point. So when I think back when I was in college and where I am now, my needs have definitely changed. So knowing our different audience segments will help us look at these differences in needs. From just having price being out there, I can definitely afford a little bit more in what I'm looking at now when I'm buying a laptop versus when I was in college and made maybe $200 a week when I was working as a student. So it's that third level here. Indiana Jones says, we're almost there. So if you think back, that level 3 is the purchasing path, and it's important to be aware of the stage users are in buying the new hardware. This way we can better serve our customers. And you might want to ask yourself, where are these customers or potential customers are in the purchase path can help make a sense of what factors affect them. If they're considering where are they doing their research, so you might want to see what top sites people are using, for instance, or media types that they're looking at. And if they're intending to purchase, what factors other than price can move that needle? So things like past experiences, which lead into the recommendations. Whose recommendations are they valuing it most? Is it from people who have bought these computers in the past? Is it friends and family? Is it reviews? It's very important to know that. And lastly, what about those that are switching? How can companies keep these customers? When we think about people that have switched or are lapsed users, we want to know, how can we ever get these customers back? If so, but more importantly, how can we prevent this from happening to the customers we currently have? And where can we learn from those kinds of mistakes or miscommunications? And lastly, that fourth level, the insights piece. All of these factors funnel into our fourth level, which are the purchase drivers. We want to know, when it comes to price, quality, performance, durability, speed, and value, that's where you really want to get at those actionable insights. Because if you're looking at people who their top concern might be durability, you might not want to market, value or speed if that's their top priority. So that brings us back to the main question. So about those college students, if you've taken any guesses into what the top considerations are, the findings can be a little surprising, and if there are any parents out there, you might want to hold on to your seats. So the three factors that drive purchase decisions when price is the main consideration point. The third is the weight. So thinking back to my college days, I was a commuter student and didn't want, a 10-pound laptop when I already had a 10-pound book to carry as well. The second is durability. How strong would the product or the laptop be to, people dropping it or just regular wear and tear. But the number one consideration point was actually gaming capabilities. So I don't think they're too worried about writing their papers or creating documents for class. Rather, they're a little bit more concerned with those gaming features there. So what does that all mean? Here we have a quote from the current head of Twitter's ecosystem. That companies today with single channel presences or even vast social presences across all networks still doesn't mean that it's a social enterprise. The enterprise extends far beyond marketing. So what's the greater takeaway? In order to build a social enterprise, you need to go beyond the straight marketing. When you're looking at that marketing, you must have the proper level of segmentation. It's great to have a huge following, but if you don't know who your followers are, you're missing out a lot. And it's this process that enables Dell Services to deliver those critical insights to our customers within custom frameworks. But most importantly, what does that mean for our customers? We're able to provide more data-driven decision-making because of because of the data segmenting. We're able to scale that data across the enterprise and indicate early shifts in behavior. We're able to augment traditional market research, and we're also driving personalization within marketing technology. And we can integrate social with enterprise data for a customer 360 view. And with that, I will pass it on back.
Hey everyone, this is Amy again. Before I start my little bit here, I do want to remind you that we have a Q&A session at the end. So if you do have any questions, you don't have to save them for the end. Just pop them into the chat window, and we'll address them at the end. So now I'm going to talk about a high-level view of how you would go about implementing segmentation like this within Brandwatch. It's going to be more about kind of the tool set that we give you to do it than a demo of the app, but I think it will be a good starting point. So the first step is getting started. Just like Liz was talking about, you start at the first level with all of your brands. It's a general data set, but you've got to start somewhere and get your data into the platform. And we do this with what are called queries. So you can see that our queries are written here in Boolean. That's how we let you choose what you're going to search, and it's nice because it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. So you can do some really sophisticated things with the Boolean, like with the near operators, but also if you're just starting out and you just want to look for Acer, you can just pop in the simple word Acer and see what kind of results you start pulling back. Here I also want to touch on the Query Wizard, which is a new feature for us. And it's pretty nice because even a beginner user can start writing some very sophisticated searches. It kind of guides you step by step on how to get started with your data set. So it'll walk you through what kind of a query are you trying to write. Is this just about your brand? Is it about a specific campaign? And at the end of maybe 5 minutes, you have a really nice starting point for a query. So that's how we pull the data in with queries. The next step, as Liz talked about, is the audience. So you want to do some initial research into who is consuming your brand. And for that, we have some really nice kind of out-of-the-box solutions. Here I'm touching on demographics. So you can add a demographics component to any visualization that shows you for a data set what's the breakdown of male to female authors, what are their professions and their interests, where are they tweeting from. One of the professions that we have is students, so you can actually filter your entire data set to say, in this case, I'm only interested in what students are saying. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper and get into those very customized kind of fields, such as the purchase path and purchase drivers. The nice thing about Brandwatch for this is that it is extremely customizable, so you can say I'm only interested in people talking about switching, if they're talking about switching within 2 words of Dell, so you know that it's a conversation about Dell and not just a conversation where Dell was mentioned at the top of the paragraph and switching is mentioned at the bottom. And the way that we do this is with rules, categories, and tags. So you'd find this on the left-hand side of of your window if you're inside of the platform in our little toolkit. There's lots of different things that we use as in our toolkit, but really rules, categories, and tags are the most powerful for that customized deep dive segmentation. And what that might look like is if you set up a category for the purchase path, you could break down for just student conversation what % of people are talking about switching versus purchase intent versus recommendations or consideration. And everything in Brandwatch is also clickable. So here, if I had gone and clicked in to recommend, this is one of the tweets that would have come up. So people looking for a recommendation of what a good gaming computer is and indicating that they're already interested in a Dell, looking for feedback. So with this level of segmentation, it really does allow you to quickly drill down and get exactly the kind of mentions that you're looking for. So finally, this was a really high-level overview of the kind of tools that we give you for segmentation, but we actually have expert-built projects already available for you to view within the application. At the top of your screen, if you're in the Brandwatch app, there's this little Insight Central button. And if you click into that, what will open is this screen, which gives you a collection of projects that either the marketing team or my team, the professional services team, or the research services team have built. My team builds the one called Expert Built here. So we have things like product development here, and that will have something with very specific rules around a product development use case in there. We also have a social selling one coming out in the next few weeks, which has purchase funnel rules in there, so you can just use those if you'd like. But all of these projects are available for you to download into your own account. So if you're interested in some of the segmentation that you see in these examples, you can actually port it into your own account and start going from there. And that's it from me. I think we're going to open it up to a Q&A.
Yeah, so thanks, Amy, and thank you, Liz. We do have a few questions, and just a reminder, if you have any questions for Amy and Liz, just throw them in the chat box, and we'll try and hit on them. But the first one, Liz, is actually for you. It's from Emma, and she asks, where did you find out the top 3 factors for college students when buying a laptop? Is it a worldwide statistic, or is it only American students? And then do you find that these perceptions vary internationally? And Liz, I think you're still muted.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So in this case, we just did a US-based study, so I couldn't necessarily tell you comparatively for international, but it's based on frequency of mentions, as most trends are when you look at social listening. So I would assume that another portion that you, or another follow-up question would be, how much more active are gaming students online than more traditional students? And that might be another question to dig deeper into the data. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and actually, Liz, a kind of a follow-on is, how do you use Brandwatch to decide which segmentations are relevant?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. First, it's going back to the presentation when I talked about having a more pointed question or a pointed objective when you look at social data is kind of the first step. For us, it's our clients who want to know specifically about certain sets, and that's where we start our kind of journey to look into it, but also based on frequency of communication online. If you can easily do this through like a sample of, up to a couple hundred to 1,000 online mentions, and being able to manually score or tag these conversations depending on how crazy you want to get with it, of course. But going from there and seeing organically who shows up, that might be another way to do it.
Great. And another question we actually have for Amy, and it's from Julie, and she asks, is Brandwatch most useful for consumer product brands, and how could financial services companies benefit from Brandwatch?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that Brandwatch is useful for consumer products brands. It's nice to be able to see like direct insight into a specific thing that your consumer is saying. However, it's also useful for financial services. One of our major clients is one of the biggest banks in the U.S., and they use it for a variety of things, but they get feedback on their marketing, or they get feedback on their actual branch locations, their employee advocates, so they have a very well-rounded use of the platform.
Awesome. Liz, I got another question for you, and it's more kind of a little more granular, but it's, are you mapping Brandwatch to a CRM for your 360-degree view of, your business?
Yes, so in some of our use cases, we have used partners like Salesforce within our digital marketing offering. So we did a case study where we mapped banking clients or customers that were at risk of defaulting on any sort of payment, and matched it with their CRMs, and matched that with more of the life events, for instance, new moms, or if you're buying a new house, if you're about to graduate from university, and we're able to track that with actual banking customers and be able to kind of target more of the ads based on that.
Awesome. And I actually there's another question for you, Liz. You're quite popular, but
Sure.
For this presentation, you really hit on purchase intent when using segmentation. Do you have other business cases where you apply this work to, the segmentation work?
Yeah, so we can have something like I would say outside of purchasing intent, you might have something like a hospital client or where we're looking at potential patients and they're looking at things like returning to a hospital or a doctor specifically and seeing how level of satisfaction, so things like bedside manner, wait time, insurance acceptance, things like that that can really drive customer satisfaction, and that could be another where you can segment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we have for this session. I just wanted to hit on some, content pieces where you can kind of find out more about Brandwatch. You can go to our blog at brandwatch.com/blog. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach us through email, Facebook, Twitter, and we also are still on Google+. So on behalf of Brandwatch, I want to thank Amy, and Liz, I want to thank you for hopping on and presenting a fantastic use case on how you use Brandwatch. And have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.